Thank you all for being here tonight. It's a pleasure to drive to San Antonio, to this beautiful city, and be with friends to talk about Allan Kardec, learning together. So hopefully technology will contribute, collaborate, everything aligned. And like Fernando said, touching hearts is up to them. I will just bring the message, but it's so wonderful, this moment together. I love San Antonio, I love this group. We have known each other for a long time, and it's a pleasure. So thank you very much for this invitation and for you to come tonight. So, yes. So this group, the name of this group is Kardec Spiritist Center. So tonight we're gonna share some information about his life as a man, his work mainly, and what legacy he left for us. So it's very nice. As I said, our group in Houston is also Kardec, San Antonio Kardec. So 53 groups in this country are aligned in the same message to disseminate Kardec's work. And his work is the basis of Spiritism. So let's learn a little bit about the model of a group that Kardec taught us. In a group like this, we study the gospel and try to practice in our daily lives to bring light. We practice fraternal love. We pray and we do some community work. So this is like a framework of what he taught us. But let's learn a little bit about this man. He is the codifier of Spiritism. And Spiritism is science, religion, and philosophy. Spiritism is based on the works of this man. So let's find out how he started all this and how come he is the codifier of Spiritism. So Spiritism is a revelation about the spiritual world, our origin, our destination, and the purpose of Spiritism is the improvement of spirits. It's based on a spirit's message, not a person. That's why the name is Spiritism, because the spirits sent us this message through his work. So focusing on this word, codifier. He's the codifier of Spiritism. But what is a codifier? To code is to reduce laws to a code. We know about coding for computers. What is coding? Is to write code, to write statements for the computer to follow and reach a goal. So it's to reduce laws to a code, to organize, to put it in order, to arrange in a systematic collection. Kardec did that. He did that with the messages that he received from the spirits. Can anybody tell me how he did that? How he organized? What is the source and how he did that? Anybody can guess? No? We're going to find out in this tonight. So starting with who this person was. He was born in this very city called Lyon. Here is Paris. Here is the south of France, Côte d'Azur, the blue coast. So Lyon is between Paris and the Côte d'Azur, the blue coast. Here is Italy, Monaco. Monaco is here. So he was in the middle of France. Here is Switzerland, Germany, Italy, Spain, and this is France, and he was born right here on October the 3rd. Actually, we are very close to Kardec's birthday. Nothing could be more appropriate to celebrate his birthday, disseminating his message in such a far away place from the place where he lived. So Kardec comes from a privileged descendant in a line of a traditional family of lawyers. So what is the expected? That he would be a lawyer as well. So all the fathers want the kids to do what they do. So they expected Kardec to be a lawyer, to learn this and to practice law. This family had a high moral of standards. See, it was a very traditional place to be born and to live in. But he was very interested in science, philosophy. This attracted him since very young. And he did not follow the expected path. So Kardec starts being out of the box very young. He was a spirit like that, not a rebel, but innovator, thinking different from expected. This is what we call out of the box. Is when you have ideas, when you do things to help, to innovate, to enlighten, but different from the expected. The families that could afford, like his family, to escape the oppression of Catholicism would send children to study abroad. So he has his family, privileged family of lawyers, and they did not agree with the oppression of Catholicism. So they were that kind of family that could send Kardec to study in Switzerland, in a place called Yverdun. This is the palace of Yverdun. Still today we can visit this place. It was a school of Pestalozzi, an example school. He was put in this school when he was 10. And the method of Pestalozzi would educate the children was combined philosophies of French Enlightenment with idealistic theories, stimulate creativity. So here is the children, we think about education more like a repression, educate, and they have to be quiet and follow the rules. So Pestalozzi would receive the boys of this school like this. Hi, welcome to my school. Why do you think he would do that? To be in his knees, to receive the children. To be talking in the same height. That's incredible. Who would do that? He would adore those children, and he would encourage them to have ideas out of the box, because that's what he was. I mean, Pestalozzi. So Kardec followed the way that Pestalozzi would see children, encourage them to have ideas, to come up with new ideas, and to exercise creativity, to highlight their potentials. So it's very important for his work as Allan Kardec, that kind of thinking that he was encouraged in the very early beginning. So Kardec went to this school when he was 10, and he adored this school. He would wake up very early in the morning, full of energy to learn. So Pestalozzi, he was Pestalozzi's disciple and substitute. I mean, Pestalozzi had lots of trips, and Kardec, still a child, would substitute him and teach the other students that were his age. He was the brightest student, started teaching at 14. And he got a bachelor degree in science, medicine, and literature. That's rich background. He spoke fluently, besides French, his native language, German, English, Italian, Spanish, and Dutch. He would wake up 4:30 a.m. eager to study and learn. Pestalozzi's method to transfer knowledge was cutting edge, because it was completely different from what was going on at that time. Repression, obey, be quiet, learn. So it was like the students. Nowadays, I think Montessori would be the closest line to this. But at that time, this was like repression and to educate kids to obey and follow the rules. He was not a rebel. You know, people that don't want, they want to shock people. No, no, no. He would have ideas, innovative ideas. So he graduates with all these degrees and he goes to Paris. He founded a mini-me of this institute in Paris. What is a mini-me? Yes, like a reproduction of the same school, following the same standards and follow the model. So he went to Paris, La Rue de Sèvres, in Paris, and he became an educator. He was an educator, so he practiced this from 1824 to 1848. He had passion for teaching, and he started publishing a book series in arithmetics, language, and everything that he knew. And he founded this institute similar to Pestalozzi's with his maternal uncle, which was his partner. So this uncle came from Lyon, and they together do this. So sometimes we believe that business with family cannot go so right sometimes. So what happened? He married Amélie Boudet, which was love at first sight, and his partner for life, for his work. They didn't have kids. She was an educator, professor of fine arts. She was petite. So I am proud to be petite. Oh my goodness, you don't know how proud I am, especially after knowing Amélie Boudet. So she was 9 years older from Kardec, and they got married February 6, 1832, my husband's birthday. There is something about, I'm sorry. So she was his spiritual strength, and she had this moral purity. She was collaborator for life. You know, sometimes when we are in sync and in harmony, we can produce so much. Well, it's not always like that, but sometimes this works really well. So Amélie and Kardec they were inseparable. Then, going back to family business, the institute was in bankruptcy. The partner had a gambling problem. So they had to close the institute. He received his part in the split, trusted to a friend to invest it just to lose all the money and never being paid back. Only Kardec had problems in his life. Only Kardec had obstacles, deceptions, moments of uncertainty, what we call problems. But actually, Kardec was being tested. He had a very important task. He was connected to very high-level spirits. He needed to pass through this because they were testing. Sometimes we feel that we are being tested because we are passing through moments that really defy our patience. So Kardec was in what we say in Portuguese, estaca zero, mark, base, like first. He was back to square one. He had all this education, all these hopes, the work that he trusted, and now he lost all his money. So what is he going to do? But this was something from above because he was in the same level of those spirits, but somebody had to be here to do this work. But they needed to make sure he was knowing what he was doing. It was actually a test, because the commitment came from before this. So he was not discouraged. Remember that he would wake up 4:30 in the morning, full of energy? He was not discouraged. He was far from being discouraged. He restarted with accounting services, and he had 3 customers. So he started doing this without the institute, only with the help of Amélie at home, doing books, financial books. And then at night, he would publish his books, grammar, math, Pestalozzi method, because he knew very well. So those books became immediate bestsellers. He was doing translation, because remember, he would speak many languages. He was doing translation, and he was tutoring for free students in science from 1835 to 1840. He was a passionate educator in all these subjects. Look at that: chemistry, physics, anatomy, and astronomy. Oh my goodness. He was a doctor, remember, so he would teach anatomy, physics, and astronomy, all because of his background in Pestalozzi. So this guy was bright, bright. Kardec would sleep, by the way, 4 hours per night. And he had all this energy and focus. So the books became bestsellers. His projects and publications were a success, a hit. He was a very respected member of many societies in Paris, because Paris was a center of important things. So nowadays we still have those societies, where, psychology, odontology, and in Paris, those people were less people, they were known. So he was very highly respected, top-level reputation for education, for his background, for his education, for his integrity and credentials. I mean, this guy lost all the money, but he didn't do anything too bad for revenge or anything. So people knew about his integrity. He started again from day one, and credentials. So he was chosen, prepared, and tested. He was ready. So friends, look at this. Partnership with the ones above. He knew about his responsibility, his commitment. He was focused, and he just went on. So those friends, Saint Augustine, Fenelon, Jesus himself, because if you read the Gospel and the Medium's book, those are very, very high-level spirits that sent a message. That's Spiritism, because of spirits, not Kardecism. It's Spiritism. Those are the ones who were with him, protecting, guiding, and enlightening. So he had this disappointment, but he reacted in the best way. And now he's back with all this impeccable reputation to start this work. So Kardec at this point was almost 50 years old. And there is a learning there. Because sometimes we are 23 and we say, oh, it's too late for me to start a new career. So people start after 50. So he was that kind of person, to go for it. So at this time, and I don't know why it's cut, but at this time in the United States, in New Jersey, in 1848, there were phenomena happening with a family, Fox, and they bought a house, and they started hearing some bumps. The kids started hearing some bumps. And then they called the parents. The parents investigated, and then in no time, the whole community was involved in this. They established a code for these bumps because they knew that was somebody that was not here with us talking, and they established a code. They started communicating with this spirit, and they learned that this guy was actually killed in this home. So there was this revelation. And then it was like a scandal in New Jersey. And the whole community got involved. There was a newsletter that published this story about this. And then at some point the kids were forced to deny. So there was a big scandal. And this newsletter came up with this story, and somebody, American missionaries, went to Great Britain in 1852, and they brought this newsletter. So now somebody goes to Paris to a party, and in Paris they started adopting this method of having wine. And then remember, I don't know if you know, rave, R-A-V-E, is a party that you spend the whole night. So how can you be distracted and entertained in the whole night? You drink wine, you eat, you talk, but then what do? They started getting bored, and then they started doing this, communicating. So that's why this is turning tables phenomenon, because by doing that, the tables started moving, bumping, turning, and at some point they said, oh, I read in a newsletter that you can establish a code and talk to the spirits. So they started doing this. So Allan Kardec was doing his thing. And in Paris, people would walk from one place to another. Every Tuesday and Thursday, I go this way, and somebody else comes that way, and we meet. So they started telling him, oh, I know that you like science, and I know that you like magnetism. He said, no, I'm too busy. Forget it, I'm not going to do it. So Monsieur, this is in the book Obras Póstumas. It's not here, but it's a book that they published after his death with his own words. Monsieur Fortier mentioned turning tables phenomena for the first time. The table is not only turning, but also speaking. We ask questions and they answer. I will believe it when I see it, and when somebody proves that tables have a brain. So he was what? Excuse me. I'm too busy for that. No way. He completely refused. So then, in 1855, Monsieur Carlotti, friend for over 25 years, describes phenomena with enthusiasm. Oh, we are doing this, you have to come. So Monsieur Carlotti was all excited about this. And then Kardec said, and then Monsieur Carlotti said, you one day will be one of us, he told me. I would not say no, I responded. Let's talk about it later. He was what? Monsieur Carlotti was like a very charismatic and smiley face, and were all excited, but Kardec was this person, common sense, centered, focused. But he was a very loving person, so he would say, okay, thank you, but no thank you, bye. He was a skeptic. So then he would write in the Medium's book, it's preferable to reject 10 truths than validate a single lie, a single false theory. So he was very careful. He started feeling, but no, maybe I shouldn't do this. So he was, in Erasmus, send a message saying this. Reason. Kardec was the common sense person. So then visited Monsieur Roger with Monsieur Fortier. Monsieur Patier, highly educated, calm, no enthusiasm but reason. I had a different impression when he invited me to witness the experiences at Madame Plaine-Maison's home. I've immediately accepted. So we saw skeptical, and now I immediately accepted. Why? What is the key word in this slide? Reason. No enthusiasm. Because sometimes we can get involved. And we see a lot of people that sometimes are, we call fogo de palha, means that it burns easily, but then suddenly that fire is gone. And this guy showed everything and talked to him calm. No enthusiasm, but reason. But then he immediately accepted. I found myself in front of an unexplainable fact, denying the laws of nature, and that my reason would repel. I've never seen something like this before. Those experiences performed in front of honored people who deserved credibility would lead to the possibility of a purely material effect. But the idea of a talking table would not make sense. So he was starting to debate, yes, no, maybe. Allan Kardec's personal diary, published like Obras Póstumas. This is a book after his death. So he was what? Skeptic, but considering that these people are honored people. They cannot be playing with this. So he started being in doubt, considering. I've witnessed the turning tables and saw that what seemed to be impossible. At this time, I've also seen some mediumistic writing with the help of a little basket. Look at the basket. My ideas were far from having changed, but in that there was a fact that had to have a cause. Fact that had to have a cause. I saw in those apparently frivolous entertainment something serious, like something revealing a new law, and promised myself to research it deeper. So Kardec was, there is a fact, this has a cause, maybe there is a law, this is worth investigating. Maybe I'm going to find that this is all wrong, but I'm going to investigate. So he was a scientist, right? He was a scientist because he graduated with degrees in science. Spiritism is a science in a different way that we know science, but it's science. Then I started my first serious studies in Spiritism. Less by revelation, more in observation. I applied to this new science the method of experimentation, never using preconceived ideas, theories. I would observe, compare, conclude, logically thinking facts, never admitting as right an explanation unless it could solve all the questions. So this is like an experiment. When you can reproduce that behavior and explain to all the questions, then you can assume that this is true. So Kardec was dedicating time and to investigate. Many times he was visited with the idea of giving up. Only Kardec sometimes has ideas to give up. Only Kardec had doubts and maybe sometimes discouraged. He was not interested in these manifestations and was focused in other concerns. But Monsieur Carlotti, Taillandier, all these names trusted him with 50 notebooks of communications with spirits that they could not organize. So remember the parties? Big bag with 50 notebooks. They documented all the questions and the answers in 50 notebooks. But they didn't know what to do with that. But they knew that Kardec would know, because he was focused, he was organized, a person, very reasonable. His interest in learning and knowledge, his organization skills, and methodic personality, they trusted him this hard work. So they got this and said, we don't know what to do with that, and we don't know where to go from here, because we are kind of tired of all this, but we know that you will find a useful purpose for this. So that became the basis of the Spirit's book. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. So he turned down. But then, in one of these meetings, the spirit of Zéfiro, which was his protecting spirit, a friend when they were druids in Gaia, previous incarnation, this person came to the mediumistic meeting, on one of the meetings for communication, and said, hey, we were friends, your name was Allan Kardec, we were kind of priests, and this task is way too important. I will be your partner in this mission. Do not turn down. This is too important. I will be with you, and I will be your partner. And so it took a couple of messages for him really to believe, to trust, and to be convinced. But remember that slide with the spirits behind. All these people were working in this. So he finally started weekly meetings, seriously started. This material, the 50 notebooks, was the foundation of the Spiritist doctrine. He would pose the questions to the spirits. The spirits would provide answers very precise, profound, logic. And the participants of those meetings were very trustable people, like astronomers, like Camille Flammarion was an astronomer. He received messages from Galileo Galilei. So these people were in the same group of the spirits discarnated in the spiritual plan. They started going to these meetings, not with questions like whatever, but true questions, and the answers started being high level. So the participants, he started calling people, inviting people that were scientists to take it seriously. Before that, I would go to the meetings only to solve problems that I was interested concerning philosophy and the invisible world. But then he started inviting these collaborators, and they would ask true important questions. So those sessions were mostly by Kardec and his friends that were scientists. And because he wanted to make sure that those would get credibility, he would confirm the veracity of answers and contacts. He would send the questions to 268 cities, 37 countries in 5 continents, America, Europe, Asia, Africa, over 1,000 contacts. No internet, no email, not even a typewriter. He would write handily with a pen, like a penna, feather. No typewriting, not at this time. He would write, Amélie and Kardec, both writing all the questions manually and sending by mail, regular mail. They would receive the questions, go to a meeting with communication, and send back to Kardec. Kardec would take all the answers, compare, and the answers that were the same, he would really consider as right, And the ones that were disconnected, what would he do? Discard. Not transmit. I asked the same question, different, no. This is all to the trash because we don't know which one is right. So he would only accept as truth the ones that were in sync. At this point, I realized that was turning into a doctrine. What is a doctrine? Contains the principles of knowledge of a belief. A book explains an idea or tells a story. A doctrine is more than a book. It's a collection of books, different approaches, but like with principles. So at this point I realized this was turning into a doctrine. I thought about publishing it for everyone's information and learning. So the questions that we see in the Spirit's book, and we have Kardec's work here, were sometimes we think, oh, that question, that's very similar to the one before. But Kardec didn't ask for himself. He asked for us. He asked the questions thinking about us, just regular people. He knew all the answers. But he provided this work. He started this book in this format because it would be better for us, Q&A. Also, the 50 notebooks were Q&A format. But he said, well, I'm going to keep the format, and this is going to be much more attractive Q&A than a text. And when we see the Spirit's book, we open and we see the question and the answer. Would you prefer like a whole text? I wouldn't. I like this format. And of course, all the others are originated from this very one, but in different format. So this is introduction to study of Spiritist doctrine. So this is like very old book, the first edition. So this is Palais Royal. Today, you go to Paris, you see this beautiful place, now completely different. So the first version had 501 questions, classified and arranged by subjects. 18 April 1857 was the day that Kardec launched, how do you say, lançamento? Launched this. And he signed this name. Can anybody tell me why he didn't put his name, Hippolyte de Lyon Denisard Rivail? Because his work, because of, yes. Not because he was ashamed or anything like that. It's for us to buy something that he had this background, but it was not honest from his part, through his view, to buy a work that was completely different. So he assumed this name, and he paid everything from his pocket because he didn't find any sponsor. He had to go into the process of requesting permission to the Catholic Church, because Catholic Church was in France in domain. And they said, okay, because of his reputation. They investigated his background. He said, I don't see anything wrong. So he got permission. So on this day, was the first day, he was inside a bookstore in Palais Royal. And then from the window, the book was on the window, vitrine. Somebody passed, Spirit's book. And he was interested. He went inside the store and then asked Monsieur Didier, which was the editor, the owner of the store. He said, Spirit's book? What is that? And then Monsieur Didier said, well, talk to the guy who wrote this book. He's right here. And then they met, and Camille Flammarion immediately was love at first sight. He was the first collaborator. He has wonderful books himself, and he was one of the pillars of this collection of books. Many questions, especially in the Genesis and the scientific approach of this book, came from Camille Flammarion. So he printed 1,200 copies from his own resources. The first edition was immediately sold out, and then 15 reprints. Still today we have this and all over the world. So the Spirit's book this book was the doctrine's backbone. What is backbone? What is my backbone? It keeps me standing. Espinha dorsal. This term was mentioned by Divaldo Franco. Espinha dorsal, backbone, is what keeps me standing. If I have a problem with my backbone, I would have to use a wheelchair. So the Spirit's book is the backbone of this. It supports all the other books. So all the other books of this Pentateuch, which is 5 books, originated from the Spirit's book. Nowadays, the last version, the second and the last, 1,019 questions answered by the Spirit of Truth group. A group, remember those spirits? This is called the Spirit of Truth group. And in the Medium's book, there is a revelation that they were all led by our modern guide, Jesus. The focus on this book is the philosophic aspect of Spiritism, but there are 4 books in Spirit's book, and all of them have different approach. So Spiritism is based on the integrity of this book, the credibility, wisdom of the sources, the spirits, for his purity of evangelical moral and coherence of its revelations. It's a great book to read. So here is, and we have here, the first one, 1857, Spirit's book, 1861, the Medium's book, 1866, the Gospel according to Spiritism, our manual of life, our guide for this journey. This book provides us with so much light, so much comfort. We should read this every day. So our groups, 53 in the USA and millions around the world, the purpose is to provide an environment for us to get together, to study, to interact, to talk about it, and to support ourselves, support each other. 1865, Heaven and Hell, great book to read. Oh my goodness. The second part of this book brings us so much light, because some spirits, they come back to tell us about their journey when they died and what happened. So it's people like us talking. Read this book because it's fantastic. And then the last one, the Genesis. The Genesis is the scientific approach. It's kind of hard to read, but we can do it very slowly. And this one has the most of Kardec's own words, because all the others are messages, but this one was written by Kardec and his collaborators. So get to know this. So this is called the Pentateuch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, Penta means 5. And then the last one, some of these slides were based on the last one from this collection, the posthumous works. People opened his drawer and found a lot of material, especially his diaries, and then published in his book. They are all available in Amazon in English, okay? So in 1858, 1 year after publishing the Spirit's book, people started sending letters, complaints, debates, confrontations, accusations. So what would he do? Put inside the drawer and forget about it? No, he would publish the letter of complaint, of accusations, of offense sometimes, and he would, on the side, publish his answer. So the Spiritist Review, Revista Espírita, for 11 years, since this until his death, like a blog, a two-way with a community. He was not afraid of antagonism. He was not. These people, this guy really knew what he was doing. He would not ignore people. He encouraged people to write, because then it means that they read the book, and he would take it very seriously. It was an example. This was a complement of his books, very interactive, letters, cases, questions, and about his trips. So Kardec proposed a question in the beginning, the very beginning, to the Spirit of Truth. He said, what are the possible causes of my potential failure? When he was still considering inaptitude. Look at how humble he was. He was not thinking he was good enough, very humble. And then the Spirit of Truth said, strong enemies will plot against your victory. You will be exposed to calumny, betrayal. Must have courage, perseverance, unbreakable strength. It's important to have devotement, abnegation, and to be ready for all sacrifices. Your mission depends on you. Amazing. And he was not intimidated, because this was in the very beginning. And then, 10 years later, after that message, he said, the above communication was verified in all points. I've experimented all kinds of challenges that were announced above. Then, he lists and describes all kinds of obstacles, challenges, difficulties, attacks that he was target of. Kardec died young because he would sleep only 4 hours, and he used all his body. We should go back to the spiritual world tired. If we are not tired, we didn't do the most we could to take advantage of this opportunity. We should arrive there tired. If we are happy, satisfied, oh, yes, we enjoyed and we didn't do what we had to do. This is an opportunity. This is one step of these stairs that we have to climb if we want to be happy, if we want to reach our final destination. We have to use all our resources and be tired. I talked about this book, Paulo Estevão. I was talking to Fernando. Paulo is an example. When he died, he was tired. He describes, because he used all the resources. We learn a lot from this book too. So, mission accomplished. Really? Retirement, really? A little semi-rural retreat which he had built and planted for his collaborators to live in. Home, library, museum. New address already published in the Spiritist Review. He had a rupture of aneurysm. Look at this. 31st of March, April the 1st. One day. One day. He was actually retired, but he went back home. His work was really accomplished. Shocking. He died the day he finished his work. His new address was already published as April the 1st. He died one day before, suddenly at 65. So he started when he was 50, right? In 15 years he did all that. sleep only 4 hours a day and travel a lot with, at that time, not the cars that we travel to come to San Antonio. Is a comfort trip, air conditioning. Look at us. So there is a lot of learning here. He said, well, my mission is accomplished. Now I'm going to retire. Look at the chairs. Oops, sorry. Look at the chairs, resting. So when he got there, he was ready to rest. So he said, my mission is accomplished. Yes, that's right. So if you go to Paris and you go to Kardec's tomb, yes, there is this here, to be born, to die, to be reborn yet again and constantly progress. That's the law, Allan Kardec. So this is here. We have done this so many times. So many times. We come, we forget everything, thank God. We have all these opportunities and work interactions, and sometimes we think that our problems are lasting forever. But actually the life is very fast. And then we go back. And then we go back and remember everything again. And then we interact, meet people, make new friends, meet old ones, and do it again. So Kardec did not invent death, mediumship, spirit. He didn't invent any of that, but he codified, he organized, and he put it in a format that we can understand. So our job is to read the book and try to practice. Easier said than done. Because for 22 years, we are still trying to understand the message of Jesus. So the first revelation is Moses, the 10 Commandments. Don't. Very strict because we were hard to understand and rebels. And then second revelation, Jesus with the law of love. Us again, but in a different level. Same message in a different format. And then the third revelation, these books in Chinese. I tried, for another talk that I have, I tried to find out in how many languages the Spirit's book was translated. Nobody knows. So many languages. Chinese, and it's available at Amazon in many languages. So this is the third revelation in a format that we can understand. The same message of third one, but in a universal format. This is not a secret between Brazilians in a club. Oh, we are special. We know about Spiritism. No. This is for us to practice, to bring light. People do not know any of this, and people don't believe in anything. They are good people because we go to the group to try to understand this and to be like those people, because our actions is what will stay here and talk for us, talk about us, talk for us. What we believe or what we study will not talk for us. But we use that as an impulse, like an inspiration for actions of goodness and love. This is what matters. So his work, his message, was disseminated and spread to 0.5 million people, followers, by 1870. Today we have 25 to 30 million worldwide. Brazil 4 million. This was before the pandemic. After the pandemic, Emmanuel is popular now. The books of Chico Xavier publishing, people reading, lots of lives, talks. The pandemic brought us, like it was like an alarm clock. So now we have much more than that. I am happy to see people like talking about Emmanuel, like Emmanuel. Before the pandemic, Emmanuel was hard. He was strict, hard to understand. But nowadays, Pensamento e Vida, which is a great book. Everybody knows about this book. Estude Viva. We have a meeting for that. We have been reading this book online with a group of people for over 2 years, the same book, line by line. And we do have guests that connect from São Paulo to share what they know about this book. So those are dense books, important books, not easy to read. The truth is not easy for us to grasp, but important for our lives. So before Kardec, death was a mystery. He studied, organized, and explained reincarnation, mediumship brought to light. He didn't invent, this is not a trademark of Allan Kardec, no. Buddhism also believes in reincarnation. This is not a limited group of people privileged that know about this. No, he just explained so we could understand. His work was clarified. His work clarified about survival of the soul, spiritual progress, bridge between science and religion. This is in the introduction of the gospel, and reincarnation. We still have a lot of questions. We still don't know, but at least we can start from a point. And if we don't understand one question, we go and read again and again. That's why we have those groups. So he researched, organized, and explained. His dedication, hard work, and determination, courage, strength, and commitment to the mission. The world had access to so important information. He was inquisitive, methodic. Because he was inquisitive and methodic, this was a key to his triumph. So there is a learning with this man, because sometimes we start something and then we get distracted and then we don't have time, and then I have my boy that needs to go to soccer game, and I have problems at work, I need to lose weight, and then so we don't have to write these books because he already did. We have a point to start. It's so inspiring. And of course, this is Ednei Giovenazzi. He was an actor. There is a movie about Kardec's life. So that's why I put this picture here, because I love this guy and I love Kardec. So both go together. Spiritism is science, religion, and philosophy based on the works of Allan Kardec. Severe transformation in science and technology. We have, after his work, we had severe transformation. Look at us. But none of the fundamental principles denied any of this information. Spiritism will never be outdated. Why? Can anybody tell me why it will never be outdated? Why Jesus' words will never be outdated? Because it's the truth. Because it's the truth. The truth will never be outdated. Raul Teixeira said, outdated only when no longer needed or somebody came up with a better idea. Raul Teixeira is great. I don't know if you know this guy. He's a speaker. Outdated means only when no longer needed. So the words from Jesus, no longer needed, no, still needed, so it's not outdated. And also, if we think something, oh, I don't need this anymore because I already practiced everything. so it's really not needed. But we are going to have centuries, hundreds of incarnations until we can say that we can practice and it's no longer needed. So we are babies. We are in our early stages. We are in our early incarnations. We have a lot in front of us, but that's fine because everything we do is considered. Our effort, like small ones, considered. So yes, we are babies, but should the baby feel ashamed because he's learning how to walk? No. So let's not be discouraged. We are in the right direction. So look at this. His last work was a catalog book reference for a Spiritist library with Spiritist books, non-Spiritist books, and books that with opposite ideas of Spiritism. So it's like this. Before you commit to say that you are my friend, talk to my enemies. Then you can say that you are my friend. Meaning, this is a library for you to get to know Spiritism. Those are the books, Spiritist books. Those are the books that don't agree with the books about Spiritism. Read all of them and make your own opinion. Then you can say that you believe in Spiritism. Only a person that really knows what he's doing would do that. Because I don't want Fernando to talk to my enemies. I'm not going to say who my enemies are to Fernando because they're going to talk bad about me. He's not going to be my friend. So I'm going to say, Fernando, if you want to be my friend, talk to the people that love me. They will say wonderful things about me, and he will think that I am a good person when there is a lot of people that don't agree with me. So Kardec knew what he was doing. This was his last work. He was working in this catalog, including books with opposite ideas and explaining why. Like he would publish the letter with the attack and the letters with the answer. So he would publish, this book believes that there is no life after death. And this is how they prove it. But we believe that there is, and this is how we prove it. So only a person out of the box would do such a thing. One must know other viewpoints to form their opinion. Remember that I said back that in Pestalozzi, the way to educate children is out of the box. So this is out of the box. And he comes from that line of thinking. Confronting, encouraging people to think. This is a book for intelligent people. People that don't accept any truth like, it is because it is. No, it explains. And he says, there are no miracles. Everything has an explanation. So the same message that Moses and Jesus, like I said before, but at a different time, to a different audience in a different format, is the message of love, is the message from the Creator. He had perfect skills for his mission. Remember, he went back to square one and he didn't get discouraged. He had the skills for the mission, but the main one was love. An educator, who here knows an educator that don't love their children? I am an educator. I have this in my blood, but this bug. And we get upset sometimes. We want to strangle the children, but we love the children. So Kardec was that kind of educator. It had to be an educator. The mission had been given to an educator because of his love. So this was his main. His message had a deep meaning, and he walked the talk. He renounced the spotless reputation as Hippolyte de Lyon de Rivail to assume Allan Kardec's name for uncredited work. His first book, Spirit's book, Allan Kardec, but it was by himself, and he had all this background. He didn't get the credit. He took it seriously. He was successful. He left a path. Take it seriously. So this is for us. Let's take it seriously. Let's follow this path and let's be successful. What does it mean? We are given this opportunity as an opportunity to make progress and go back better. We are not going to go back with anything but our virtues and our defects, like limitations. We don't bring back even a body. When we come, we have a body. But when we go back, what are we bringing? What we conquered here. And of course, we're going to go back with many of our limitations, but that's part of our process. But the beautiful thing is that we are given this opportunity to do what we have to do. For some people, family. For other people, work. For other people, community work. I mean, we don't know, but we do have a seed inside of us that if we find this seed, the seed of the Creator, our life, like a camera that you look up for the focus, and then when you find this seed, you get the focus. Sometimes we are disconnected, dispersed, confused, isolated, alone, because we don't find this. So let's look for it, because this spiritual quest, the search of spiritual meaning, is what will bring us that. But sometimes we are not thinking. If we are here, instead of going to the river walk to have champagne, we are already thinking, there is more to it. Life cannot be have a shower, drive to work, go back. No, life is much more than that. Let's expand ourselves, because we can do it. We can be successful. We can follow his path and take it seriously. So this was his work was the foundation of the building. He paved the road for many others. This was like in a pyramid, the foundation of Spiritism, but there are others. Leon Denis, Chico Xavier, Emmanuel, André Luiz, others. Divaldo Franco, Joana de Ângeles, Amélia Rodrigues, Manuel Filomeno de Miranda, others. This is Spiritism as well. Spiritism is not only Kardec's work. This is also excellent Spiritism. So how do we know? If we go to a bookstore and we see, this work is a message from the Spirits, how do we know that it's trustable? Federação Espírita Brasileira. Sorry about the camera, I have to show. This seal, FAB. People that are serious submit the work to Federação Espírita Brasileira. It's analyzed, approved, so those are trustable. So this is also Spiritism. But Kardec is the foundation, the base. He started, and then all the books. Chico Xavier, over 400 books. A simple person, just with primário, como se diz primário? In many languages. He didn't put 1 cent of any of these books, because he said, this is not my message. This is not my work. I cannot take credit. So he donated all the profits, because it was the right thing to do. And also books that we know, if the person is a serious person, they will donate, like Divaldo Franco, 1 cent. It's for a community work, like a obra social. So what is the impact of this in our lives? How, in my life, when I cannot pay my bills, my children are sick, I'm having problems at work, I am in disharmony with my family, what matters all this work for me? What is the impact in my life, directly speaking? The most important thing in Spiritism is not the mediumistic phenomena, but rather its principles and moral consequences. We are eternal spirits. Life is not only this here. This is one, here is infinite, infinite. This is one moment. So by knowing this, everything changes. Because we think, oh my God, I am 60 years old. I don't know how long I have in front of me. I'm going to die and I didn't. Yes, but hold on. It's a process. It's an experience. So we are eternal spirits. The spirit is in constant improvement. We are responsible for our own spiritual progress. We have free will. So if I'm not ready today to make that kind of decision, it's okay. Because I am on my way. I am on my way. And the Creator knows it, and Jesus knows that we cannot deal with everything at one point. But we are in this direction. So we come from God, which is love. It's hard to read. We are here. And we go back to God, which is love. We are here and we have the manual of life, which is the gospel, which is a message of love. So we start by using this as our daily inspiration, because of our problems. When we read those messages, we will find lots of answers. Study, practice, and experience. Study his books and reflect. Practice. Try to put in practice his lessons. Understand his message. Hey, there is the word try. We cannot say, oh, I am practicing, but I can say, I'm trying. I cannot say, oh, I can say that I'm, the purpose, the idea is to try. We can all say we are trying. Or maybe if we are not, we can say that we will try. But we cannot say, I am doing, I am practicing, I am becoming better. We can say that we try. So the idea is to try. To see Jesus, to feel God, and to find happiness. Happiness is our final destination. But the happiness is the path. We can, if we have gratitude, we are happy because we don't depend on circumstances. We always find a reason to be happy in any situation. There is another talk about gratitude. Gratitude is our connection. It closes the cycle with the Creator. So it will be worth it to make that effort, because at the end of this journey, we are going to find what we are looking for. We're going to see the light. So Spiritism was a new era for humanity. Unshakable faith is only that which can meet reason face to face in every human epoch. This is his quote. I love that. When we know why we believe. We don't believe because, oh my God, I'm not going to believe this, I'll go to hell. No, and now we know why we believe, because it's explained. So Allan Kardec was the codifier of Spiritism. Those books were used for this talk. Look at this. This is an old book. O Principiante Espírita by Allan Kardec. Biography. This is a great biography. This is a great documentary. This is a great book. So thank you very much for coming today. I still have some slides. I just wanted to thank you for coming, for meeting me and my husband. We came with a lot of good energy to meet you. We love San Antonio, we love this group. And we saw you other times, so we really appreciate the attention. And I'd like to see if you have any questions, anything that you'd like to share or ask. If we don't have questions, I do have questions. What is Kardecism? Does anybody know or would like to try to answer? Yes, Fernando.
When people don't really know about Spiritism, they have this point of view that Spiritism is Banda, is other things, and to distinguish them, they say Kardecism. But in fact, that doesn't really exist because
Exactly.
Spiritist.
Yeah. Brazilians sometimes say, I am Kardecista, but it's a way to differentiate from other beliefs in life after that, but with other beliefs. So they differentiate like that, but there is no such a thing, because this is based on the Spirit's message, Spiritism, not Kardecism. So I just wanted to clarify that. And then, what is the most important thing that we learned today? If somebody would like to say, I would love to hear, but if nobody wants to say anything, just think for yourself and ask yourself, because it's supposed to be like a question for reflection. What is the most important thing that I learned today for my life? Because it has to make sense, it has to make a difference for our lives individually. So there is just one thing that will stay with us mostly. And then the last one, sorry. Oops, sorry. What have I learned so far from his work? We have been studying, some of us for maybe 5 days, 5 months, some of us for 5 years, some others for many decades. But what have I learned from his work? How has it touched me? So those are questions for us to reflect, because we see all those books, but it has to make sense for us, to help us to solve our problems, not seeing them as problems, but mostly with invitations for our progress, for realignment with the Creator. So this is the purpose of this, to help us to be better people. How can we be better people? Trying to develop the love inside of us, and then help, starting with us in a spiral, those around us, and bringing light. So I do power walking in my neighborhood, and sometimes I see trash. And then it started like this. I was not the one who put trash here. This trash doesn't belong to me, it's pandemic. I'm not gonna touch this. Somebody really bad put the trash and is covering the flowers. So plastic bags are everywhere. This is an example. And then the following day, trash. And then I don't complain about the others, I don't say that I was not me. The third day, maybe I'm gonna remove this and bring home. So this is like us. It's a process. It's a process. We start with this attitude, oh, nobody cares about me, oh, nobody understands. So it's a process of development. We become better people when love is just a little bit of us. But then this grows. One day will be only love. And then we're going to say, oh, I will take this day to remove all the trash in my neighborhood. So it's like a process. We are like children, rebels, but then we, even if nobody's seeing, I go there, I take the trash. Nobody saw me doing this. I am bringing light to the world. Not being recognized by anyone, but the Creator is seeing, Jesus is seeing, but most of all, I am doing something that matters, something to bring light.